So the first couple of videos that we ran through was, is real estate for you? And I think that's important to establish that before getting into it, because it is a lot of hard work. But if you have it, your very core, you're aware of why you're doing it, you will stay focused and you won't quit during those tough times. Okay, we're now at a stage now that you've done your prospecting, you've got the listing, you're on the market, you've had people through, you've given the feedback, and believe it or not, and sometimes you'll feel like this is not going to happen, but believe it or not, people will start making offers. Now, depending on where you are in the world watching this video, but if you're in Australia, the sort of process to people making an offer, step one will be asking for a contract. Usually someone will take a contract because they'll have their solicitor look over the contract just to see if there's anything in the contract that's important or crucial for them to know, which may be a stoppage of them being able to move forward to purchase that property. It may be something to do with easements on a property. They may want to put a swimming pool in, and if there's easements across a property, they may not be able to. So they'll have a solicitor look over the contract. So step one, if someone does ask you for a contract, that is a great buying sign. That is the sign of someone that's very, very interested in the property. Once they've reviewed the contract, they're now coming back to you and going, hey, listen, we're now ready to make an offer. Now, most people that are going to make an offer on a home, unless they're very, very experienced with purchasing property, I've found that most people don't really know how to make an offer. They're not really sure of the process of doing that. So this is really, really important, where you actually can help guide the purchaser through this part of the process. So usually they'll come to you and they'll say, okay, what were you guiding for the property? The home we're sitting in today, for example, 3.7 to 4 million. They'll go, cool, so what are you guiding? They'll then come to you with an offer. So that offer, for example, here may be 3,650. Okay, so they'll go, we'd like to offer $3,650,000 for that property. The first thing I do is I acknowledge the fact that they've made an offer, regardless of what level that offer is at, because someone that has actually made an offer has made the effort to dig deep and spend their money, or suggest that they're ready to spend their money to purchase that property. So the first thing I do is acknowledge and appreciate the offer. Thank you very much for making that offer. What I need to establish around your offer. So before I give them any feedback, and you've got to remember, it's not my opinion around the offer. It's the vendor's opinion around the offer. This is where it's really important as a real estate agent. You are the middle person, and you've got to make sure you bring those two parties together. So the first thing I do is say thank you. Second, I'll say, okay, we need to establish the terms of your offer. So step two is the settlement. What period of time are you looking to be able to settle on that property? And for anyone that hasn't maybe sold real estate before, step one is exchanging, and then step two is settling on that property. Now, if you're in Australia, New South Wales standard settlement times is 42 days, so 6 weeks. So, and your vendor may have said to you, we've got in our contract 12-week settlement. So it's really important that you're on the same page as the vendor, understanding what is their desired settlement period, and then obviously what is the purchaser's desired settlement period. So the person makes an offer, let's go back, $3,650,000, settlement period 8 weeks, for example. And then next step is deposit. So obviously here in Australia, you can make a deposit as little as $1. Now, most contracts will stipulate that the deposit needs to be 10%. I'm seeing at the moment, with money less readily available to people, we're seeing an increase in people making 5% deposits and putting forward in their offer that they want to make a 5% deposit. So it's really important that you understand what is the deposit that person is able and willing to make. Now, the High Court has ruled that whatever deposit you accept at exchange is the deposit that you get if that purchaser does not complete at settlement. So you want to keep that in mind, especially if someone is pushing out a delayed settlement. My sort of suggestion would be to a vendor, the longer the settlement, the higher the deposit, meaning that it holds them accountable to ensuring they do actually settle and complete on that purchase. The shorter the period, potentially you could be a little bit more negotiable. So in this example, 3,650, 8 weeks, and a 5% deposit from that purchaser. Now, the last step, which is a step that sometimes we forget to put in there, is that person in a position to move forward with an unconditional exchange? New South Wales, we call that a 66W. Or do they need a cool off where they may need to get a bank valuation done to get their finance approved? They may want to do a pest and building report, meaning that they may ask for a conditional exchange with a 5-day or even a 10-day cool off to do their due diligence. It's really, really important that when you're presenting to your vendor, you're actually including that part of the offer as well, so that your vendor can make an intelligent, informed decision on all parameters of the offer, and they don't get caught out. They don't agree to an offer and then find out that it wasn't really what they thought it was. So we have the offer. We've got it all bundled up, okay? Now, every single offer must be presented here in Australia anyway, must be presented to the seller in writing. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll call the seller. Hello, for example, in this situation, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Got some really fantastic news. We actually have our first offer in, and I'll go through the parameters. It's $3,650,000. It is an 8-week settlement, a 5% deposit, and they would like to have a conditional exchange with a 5-day call off so they can do bank val, get their loan approved, and pest and building. Okay, I present that offer verbally to the vendors. Then what I do is send through a letter of offer. I've got a fantastic team that do that for me now, but when I started, I was doing that myself, and I get that across to them in a professional letter of offer so they can actually see that offer drawn out in detail. I do that as soon as I possibly can, so they've got that offer to consider. Once I've presented that offer to the vendor, I go back to the purchaser and I let them know I've now presented your offer to the vendor. I'll come back to you with feedback shortly. The vendor has time to have a look at it. They may say, Jacob, we're guiding 3.7 to 4 million. The offer's 3,650, a little bit under the guide. Can you go back and negotiate with that purchaser? And this is where the sales skill, and a lot of people that enjoy sales will really enjoy this part of the process. So you'll go back to the purchaser and say, okay, some feedback for you. Thank you for your first offer. Okay, unfortunately, because the offer is not within the guide, we're not in a position to provide you with a counter offer. The seller has asked if you would be in a position to make a second offer that falls within the guide price. Okay, I'll give you an opportunity to have a think about that, and if you could come back to me as soon as possible, so that if anyone else is interested in this property, you're getting in to give yourself the best opportunity to purchase it while you can. They go away and have a think about it, come back, and they may go, okay, our second offer is, and they'll go through the parameters again, 3.7, same parameters. We then go back to the seller, we present the offer to the seller, they go back and go, okay, thank you for making the second offer within the guide. They now want to make a counter offer, and then we're ready to rock and roll.
I just wanna stay in the sun where I find. I know it's hard sometimes. Pieces of peace in the sun's peace of mind. I know it's hard sometimes.